So you are raising capital going through digital assets instead of using, the conventional traditional markets or private equity markets like other crypto exchanges have done. Why?
Good morning, Cheryl. Excited to be here and excited to break this news here on Bloomberg. Fusang is Asia's first fully licensed and regulated digital financial ecosystem for security tokens. And our unique combination of regulatory licenses, technology, and services allow us to provide an end-to-end platform to issue tokenized list and trade securities, cryptocurrencies, etc. And that's really why we're doing an IPO for ourselves today. We wanted to be able to merge the best of a traditional IPO process, the kind of regulatory approvals that we need to go through to become a publicly listed company on a stock exchange, and all of the investor protections that brings, but blending that with the best of blockchain technology by issuing a token that directly represents shares in our company.
How much clarity do we have in terms of regulation when it comes to what makes a security token, and what do you think needs to be done on this front?
Well, I think there's actually a great deal of clarity. And really the approach that we've taken is to not look at the technology layer, but look at the underlying asset layer to say, what exactly does this token represent? If this token represents a share, my belief is that you should follow all of the usual securities rules that go into that. That's why for our own IPO, we followed a very traditional IPO process. We're very grateful that our regulators have looked and approved that. Looking at the underlying share, the only difference is instead of having a piece of paper, we now have a digital token. And to me, this really needs to be the future of how we merge the traditional capital markets and the cryptocurrency markets. You mentioned the fact that a lot of crypto exchanges are listing on traditional stock exchanges. And honestly, I find that a bit strange, where you have these crypto exchanges saying that digital tokens are the future on one hand, and on another hand, listing on a traditional exchange, having these paper shares, it's just a bit strange. And to me, we need to be able to prove out this process to show the market that you don't need to complain about regulation, that you can issue a fully regulated asset, and that these tokens can directly represent shares in a company.
Well, what is that disconnect then? Is this because we are seeing traditional securities exchange regulators struggling to be able to keep up with the new technology and innovations?
Absolutely. And the crypto markets are very exciting. You've got NFTs, you've got new innovations coming every day. But the truth about crypto is that it is by its nature volatile. These assets, as interesting as they are as a store of value or a medium of exchange, don't have the same underlying value anchors as traditional securities, shares, bonds, etc. My belief is that there exists cogent regulatory frameworks today of how to actually list securities. We can use a new technology layer with the blockchain to represent those securities. And as I said, by being able to merge the best of the traditional IPO process, listing on a fully licensed and regulated stock exchange, following the usual processes, but also trying to bring in the best of blockchain technology, to me, that really is the way forward. And that's why we've chosen to do this first IPO for ourselves, to prove out the model and to also forge the path forward.
So you've talked about these security tokens, for example, being issued by cryptocurrency firms as being more akin to more complex securities rather than straightforward shares. And if that's the case, well, there are equally, if not more complex securities across traditional asset classes, but they're not embraced by retail investors the way that crypto has been. How do you reconcile that?
Exactly. As exciting as the crypto technology is, as I said, it's important to look through to the underlying asset. And as investors, I think people need to also step up, take some responsibility and ask, what exactly am I investing in? This token that I'm buying, does it give me any legal or contractual rights? What exactly am I getting as an investment? Never mind the technology layer. And you're 100% right. A lot of security tokens are either a digital token mapped to a piece of paper somewhere else, or they're a token that represents some kind of complex derivative or contractual right. And again, as interesting as those are, I think there's a lot to still be said for just shares, bonds, funds, etc. Straightforward securities, we know how those work. We believe regulators know how to regulate them. And we think that that is simplest in terms of investors knowing exactly what they are getting. And I would hope that as investors look at buying into institutional regulated assets on a regulated platform, this will really open the floodgates for mass adoption. There was a recent study by Kunin and Associates that showed that by 2030, 25% of all publicly listed companies can and will be tokenized, issued as digital blockchain-based tokens instead of paper-based shares. That's a $4 trillion issuance volume. Very excited to be able to kick off that trend with Fusang's own IPO.